We have a tube for our sock. Where's it gonna go? Clue 2 is gonna make it look a little bit more like a sock. So we're gonna take our tubes. If you're knitting 2 socks at the same time, your right and left sock, your tubes will be identical. So pay close attention to those right sock and left sock instructions that I show in these tutorials, making sure you're picking up along the correct edge for the right sock, and then you're picking up along the other edge for the left sock. But it's really clear when you watch the tutorials, and then use the timestamps linked down below. Some of the techniques will be really easy in this clue, and others you might learn how to do brioche if you decide to brioche, but there's a non-brioche option too. So use those timestamps linked down below to skip ahead to those tricky technique moments, and most of them are really easy. So go with the flow, embrace your own pace, and the most important thing for this week is a choice. So we're gonna do the cuff, which is really simple, using a color Popportunity. And if there's any time where it says using a contrast color 1, if you want to use contrast color 2 instead, that's okay. You're gonna have some leftovers of those contrast colors, so feel free to add extra color pops at any moment during your cuff or your heel. And the heel is the choice. You're either gonna choose between a brioche heel or a simple garter stitch. If you've never done brioche before, this is a great color Popportunity to learn brioche, and we can knit a brioche heel flap. But if you want to keep it simple, then just go with the garter stitch striped heel flap, and we're gonna have a really fun, relaxing clue 2. So let's get to it and follow your written instructions, follow that PDF along with these close-up tutorials, and let's make a sock. Clue 2. We're going to pick up stitches for the cuff, and I'm going to show that for the right sock. You need to look at your sock like this, with section 1 above that striped I-cord bind off. So chevron section 4 is here, the striped bind off is there, and section 1 of the leg is there. For the right sock, we're going to begin by picking up stitches along the left selvage of the leg. Follow round 1 for your size. I'm going to be doing it for size 3, but follow your pattern closely. If you're doing size 1 or 2, then make sure you're picking up the right number of stitches. And don't worry, as long as you have the right number of stitches at the end, you can make it work. So begin by picking up stitches for round 1 using main color and your working needles. For size 3, I'm going to pick up and knit 3, make 1 4 times along the left selvage of section 4. So start picking up your first stitch into that first main color selvage stitch below the I-cord. So it's along that chevron. Make sure you're picking up stitches along the chevron edge. Using main color, pick up and knit 1, pick up and knit 2, and 3. Make 1 using a backwards loop cast on, like this. I'm going to do that 4 times for my size. Pick up and knit 1, 2, 3, and make 1. If you're following size 1, then you only do that twice. So you just did that twice, and then keep following your round 1 instructions for size 1. For size 2, 3, 4, and 5, we need to keep going. Pick up and knit 1, 2, 3. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, you're going to do the make 1 like this. Twist and place that stitch on the needle. I need to do this one more time for size 3. Pick up and knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Make 1. So make sure you're following the instructions for your size. After you pick up stitches along that section 4 edge, that chevron edge, pick up and knit 4, make 1 along the left selvage of leg section 3. Again, this is for size 3, so keep on following the instructions for your size. We're going to pick up stitches all around this selvage, following the instructions. So for size 3, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and when I'm picking up stitches, I'm going through both legs of the selvage stitch. So rather than just getting one leg of the stitch, I'm getting both legs of the selvage stitch. Okay, I just picked up and knitted 4. I need to make 1 along the left selvage of leg section 3. So section 3 are those wavy welts. Pick up and knit 1 from welt 3 edge. So this is the welt 3. Just dive in anywhere you can to get 1 stitch picked up from that welt 3 edge. Pick up and knit 4, make 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, make 1. Pick up and knit 1 from the welt 2 edge. This is welt 2. You can dive in here, or you can even just dive in and pick up one of these pink strands of yarn. Just stab the needle through the fabric at that welt 2 edge to get 1 stitch. Pick up and knit 4, make 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, make 1. Pick up and knit 1 from welt 1 edge. Dive in to get 1 stitch there. For size 3, keep on following your instructions for your selected size. I'm going to pick up and knit 3, make 1 4 times along the left selvage of leg section 2. But make sure you do this the number of times it says in your pattern. For size 2, you're only going to be doing the pick up and knit 3, make 1 3 times along this edge. But follow your written instructions, but we're going to keep picking up stitches along this section 2 chevron edge. Pick up and knit 3, make 1. So by now I'm running out of tension on my needle. We need to get all the needles on our double pointed needles or on your circular needle. So by this point you might need to poke your cord through the row so you have a bit more flexibility. I'm going to be doing double pointed needles, so by the end of this pickup I need to get all my stitches evenly distributed onto 4 needles, 4 double pointed needles. So I'm going to start by just working with a new double pointed needle. I just did pick up and knit 3, make 1 once. Here's the second time. Pick up and knit 3, make 1. Pick up and knit 3, make 1. And this is the final 4th time for the pick up and knit 3, make 1 for size 3. But if you're doing size 1, then you will only do that pick up and knit 3, make 1 twice. And you'll only do it 3 times for size 2, 4 times for size 3. So follow your pattern. You picked up stitches along that chevron edge. I'm going to go ahead and use another needle here to help distribute my stitches. Pick up and knit 3, make 1 4 times along the left selvage of leg section 1. Again, make sure you do this the correct number of times for your size. Pick up and knit 1, 2, 3, make 1. if you're unsure where to insert your right needle into that selvage stitch, just get it in there and pull some strands through, and then we can count later, and we can always sneak in an extra decrease or sneak in an extra increase on the next round. So pick up and knit 3, make 1, pick up and knit 3, make 1. I need to do this a 3rd time. Pick up and knit 3, make 1. And for size 3, this is my final time doing the pick up and knit 3, make 1. There we go. And you should have stitches picked up all around the sock by now. And then at the end, we need to pick up and knit 2 from the I-cord edge. So we can do that. We can just dive in to that contrast color I-cord edge. There's no right or wrong way. Just dive in and pull a strand of yarn through, and we need to do that a 2nd time. There we go. We have stitches picked up around the entire edge, along that left edge of the sock. And I need to distribute my stitches on that first needle. There's a lot of stitches on there. I mean, you could work with just 3 DPNs, but I want a little more flexibility here. So I'm going to slip some of my stitches onto a 4th double-pointed needle. So just get comfortable, get situated with your needles, whatever needles you're using. And we're going to work the cuff in the round with some beautiful 2x2 ribbing. All right, that's enough. And I have my spare needle. You should have 68 stitches for size 3. You should have 52 stitches for size 1, 60 stitches for size 2, 68 stitches for size 3. Size 4 has 76 stitches, and size 5 has 84. So do a little stitch count check right now. Count how many total stitches you have on your round here. And if you don't have the recommended number of stitches, don't worry. We can sneak in some extra increases or decreases on this next round. So as long as you have stitches picked up, you're good to go. Round 2, knit 2, purl 2 to end of round. Knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. Keep on going until you reach the end of your round, and we're going to repeat that 2x2 ribbing until you have about 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters of ribbing. So I'm going to repeat that 19 more times after I complete this first ribbing round. And if you find that you're not on track with your stitch count, you could just sneak in an extra knit 2 together if you have too many stitches. Or you could sneak in a make 1 like that. If you don't have enough stitches, then randomly you could sneak in 1 or 2 make 1 increases during this round. Just make sure you have a 2x2 ribbing and the correct stitch count. So this is the right sock, and just to mention the left sock, if you're picking up stitches for the left sock, it's going to be a little bit different. For the left sock, for the cuff, you'll be picking up stitches along the other edge. So it'll be the same type of fabric from the leg we're picking up. So for you left sock knitters, if you're ready for the left sock, just ignore what I just did right there. That was for the right sock. For the left sock cuff, you're going to begin picking up stitches along the right selvage of the leg. So when you're looking at the fabric, let's look at it the same way. So this is section 1. If we're going to do the left sock, this is section 1, the waves above your bind off. And then section 4 are the chevrons. So this is how you want to look at your fabric. And then for the left sock, we're going to pick up stitches along this right selvage. Okay, so make sure for the cuff, this makes a difference to get the mirrored effect for both your right and left sock. Using main color, you're going to begin picking up stitches for round 1 along the right selvage of leg section 1. So right here. So you see that those waves from section 1? That little selvage stitch right there is where you're going to start picking up stitches for the cuff, and then follow the left cuff instructions closely. You'll be picking up stitches all around the sock, following your round 1 for your chosen size. So there you have it. That's the cuff pickup. The right sock begins picking up stitches over here, down here, over here, and the left sock begins picking up stitches over here when you're looking at your leg like this. After you repeat the main color ribbing row for 19 more times and have about 1.5 inches, 4 centimeters, it should look like this. You can knit that cuff as long as you want. So if you like really long legs to your socks, you could knit it a bit longer, or you could add more contrast color stripes to the end of your cuff. I'm going to finish my cuff with contrast color 1, so we'll have a little ColourPop striped band of contrast color 1. You're going to have plenty of leftovers of all 3 contrast colors at the end of your sock, so if you want to add extra stripes during the cuff, you could customize your cuff with other contrast color pops, or you could finish your cuff with a few rounds of contrast color 1, and then 2, and then 3 for a colorful finish. I'm just going to use contrast color 1 to finish my cuff rounds. So repeat round 2 with contrast color 1 5 more times, or until the ribbing measures approximately 2 inches, 5 centimeters. So I broke my main color. I broke my main color tail right there, and I'm ready to continue the knit 2, purl 2 with contrast color 1. So attach contrast color 1 by just knitting the 2x2 ribbing. And I'm going to start doing the weave-in Steven technique. So after I knitted my first couple stitches, I'm going to cross both tails of yarn on top of my working yarn, like this. And then purl 2. And then I'm going to do that weave-in Steven after each knit stitch. So knit 1, cross, knit 1, cross. I just did my 2 knit stitches. Now I'm doing my purl stitches with contrast color 1, knit 1, cross, knit the second stitch, cross. I'm going to do that a couple more times to weave in my ends as I knit. I'm doing this after the knit stitches. And look at that, my tails are being woven in on the wrong side. You can weave in your ends however you like, but this is my favorite quick method. And I just do the purl stitches regular. And I'm going to do that one more time for these columns of knit stitches. Knit, cross, knit, cross. And then I'm just going to drop those broken tails of yarn and leave them alone. And then I can just snip those later because they're woven in. How cool is that? Keep on repeating the 2x2 ribbing. I'm going to work 5 more rounds with contrast color 1 and then bind off with a stretchy bind off. But keep on going, customizing your cuff with whatever colors you like. Once you knit 5 rounds with contrast color 1 and your cuff is about 2 inches, 5 centimeters, or as long as you want, bind off all stitches loosely using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. To begin this bind off, you're going to knit 1 and then do a backwards yarn over, placing the yarn on top of the needle like this. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, then you're going to bring the yarn from the back on top of the needle towards the front, like this, and then back around. So one more time, if the yarn is in back, it comes on top of the needle, around the needle like that, and then you knit the next stitch, and then pass both strands over that recently knitted stitch. So you're passing the first knit stitch and the yarn over on top of the knit stitch. Now we're looking at purl stitches. Before you do a purl stitch, we're going to do a regular yarn over. So that's taking the yarn around this way. And then it needs to keep coming in front to purl. So one more time, you just bound off one stitch. You need to purl a stitch, so bring the yarn forward around the needle for a yarn over and in front to purl. Purl one, and then pass both strands over, the yarn over and that first stitch, to bind off. And now we have a purl stitch. So before every purl stitch, we're going to do the regular yarn over like this, around the needle and in front to purl. And then pass the yarn over and the first stitch over. Like this. And then before a knit stitch, rather than doing the regular yarn over this way, we're going to do a reverse yarn over this way. Like that. Do you see how that yarn over is slanting the other way? And then you can knit the stitch and pass both strands over. The yarn over and the first stitch are passed over. There we go. Passing them over that stitch. And then we have a knit stitch. So before every knit stitch, we do the reverse yarn over. So like this. And knit the stitch. And pass both strands over. I'm going to show that for you Continental Style knitters. If you're an English style knitter, you can watch those techniques and rewind to give that some practice. If you have any other bind off that's stretchy that you like for your socks, you can do that as well. But this is one of my favorite stretchy bind offs. Before a purl stitch, you do a regular yarn over this way to purl one, pass both strands over, and we have another purl stitch. So we need to do another regular yarn over like this. Purl one. So we made a yarn over, and we passed that yarn over and the first stitch over the most recently worked stitch. And you can already see how stretchy it becomes. So now we have knit stitches. That means instead of going this way with our regular yarn over, we go this way for that opposite reverse yarn over. Knit one. Pass both strands over. We'll get both of them. There we go. And before a knit stitch, we have that reverse yarn over like this. Knit one, pass both strands over. And a purl stitch. This is a regular yarn over to purl. Pass the yarn over and the first stitch. A purl stitch is next, so that's a regular yarn over before the purl. And before the knit stitches, we do the reverse yarn over. Keep on going. You can rewind this video to see these techniques again. You're doing the exact same technique that I just showed all the way around until all stitches are bound off. So once again, for you English style knitters, before the purl stitch, we do a regular yarn over to purl. Pass those two stitches over. And there's another purl stitch, so that means a regular yarn over to purl. And pass both stitches over. And the knit stitch, we go start from the back and then we come forward like this, and then take the yarn and back again to knit. Pass those two strands over. The yarn comes on top of the needle. Whoops. Get that stitch back on there. The yarn comes on top of the needle. like that, so that now the yarn is in back to knit. And there we go. Pass those two over. And then before the purl stitches is the regular yarn over, like that. So keep on going, and I'll see you at the end of the bind off. When you reach the final bound off stitch, we have the final yarn over and the last purl stitch, slipping those two stitches on top. And then you can just break your yarn and just pull it through like that. And then we can weave in that end. We have a nice stretchy cuff to fit over our ankle and leg. And I'm just going to put that broken tail of yarn through the top edge a couple times so that it closes that little gap. And then when I weave in my ends, I'm going to just loop them through these knit stitches on the wrong side. You can weave in your ends however you like. This is just one method that I like to do. So I'm just putting it through each little knit stitch strand. This is like a whip stitch technique. And I do that about 10 or 12 times, and that's enough. You can do a few extra just to be safe. And once you're done weaving in that tail, then you can just pull the tapestry needle off, and then you can snip your yarn. Whenever I snip my yarn, I don't snip it right next to the fabric. I do it about right here so that there's a little bit of wiggle room, so that tail doesn't poke out on the wrong side. But this is the finished cuff, and I can't wait to see how you customize it with color. Maybe you do extra color pops, or if you have any other cuff finishing techniques. If you want to do a little picot bind off or something, that could be fun. But this is a simple color Popportunity bind off, and now we're ready for the heel flap and heel turn. Right sock heel flap. The right sock heel flap begins with the main color, and then we're going to work with contrast color 2 for some stripes. We're going to pick up stitches for the heel flap using the main color, and there will then be a garter stitch option or a brioche option for you to choose from. But both options start with the same pickup technique, and then you get to choose whether you want a brioche, do some ribbing, brioche ribbing for the heel flap, or easy garter stitch. The right sock heel flap begins looking at your cuff at the bottom, and then we're looking here at the top edge, and we're going to start picking up into the I-cord, and then the section 1 waves, and then the section 2 chevrons. So the right sock, this is the right sock, we're going to start here and pick up the heel flap all the way to there, and then work back and forth from here to here. The left sock, if you're looking at your fabric, the left sock, pretend that this isn't here. I'm working on the right sock. For the left sock, you're going to pick up stitches starting at the section 2 selvage here, that chevron. So that's the bind off. The waves are to the right. So this is your left sock heel flap. You're going to start picking up here, and then along the section 1 waves. This is the left selvage of the leg. You're going to pick up the left sock from here, to the I-cord. Okay, but I'm going to show you the right sock. Using main color, follow your size for row 1. I'm going to show you size 3, but make sure you follow your correct size. Using main color, pick up and knit 3 stitches from the I-cord edge. You can get any 3 strands of yarn that you can get along this I-cord edge. Pick up and knit 1, and then I'm going to dive in to the middle of that I-cord and pull a strand of yarn through. Come on, there we go. And then a 3rd stitch. You can just go anywhere into that I-cord edge. There's no right way. As long as you have 3 stitches coming from the I-cord, you're good to go. Now, pick up and knit 3, make 1 4 times along the right selvage of section 1. This is for size 3, and we're going to go into this first selvage here. Yeah, I think this is the same for all sizes actually. We're going to do this 4 times. So pick up and knit 3, make 1. 1, 2, 3, make 1. 1, 2, 3, make 1. 1, 2, 3, make 1 using that backwards loop cast on, just like we did for the cuff. And that was 3 times. We need to do it once more. 1, 2, and 3, make 1. That was 4 times along that right edge, the selvage of section 1. Pick up and knit 3, make 1 4 times along the right selvage of section 2. If you're doing size 1, you're going to do the pick up and knit 3, make 1 twice. That was for size 1. Size 2, you'll do that 3 times. Size 3, you're going to do it 4 times. 5 times for size 4, and also 5 times for size 5. So follow your row 1 for your size really closely. This is picking up and knitting 3, make 1 along the section 2 selvage here. That was 1, 1, 2, 3, make 1. 1, 2, 3, make 1. 1, 2, 3, make 1. And 1, 2, 3, make 1. So I picked up and did that knit 3, make 1 all along that section 2 selvage. So when you see that first welt, that contrast color 1 welt, that means stop. We're not going to pick up any more stitches. So we have stitches picked up from the I-cord all the way to right before that first welt. And then we're going to work back and forth with either the brioche option or the garter stitch option. If you're following the garter stitch option, then skip ahead to garter stitch option, row 2, wrong side, and you're going to knit to the last stitch, slip 1 with yarn in front, and then you're going to work easy garter stitch flat rows with the contrast color 2 and your main color. You'll be striping those for 2 rows each. So follow those rows really closely for garter stitch. That's really simple, and you'll have a nice relaxing square to knit with garter stitch stripes. If you're doing the brioche option, then continue with brioche option, row 1, right side. So I'm going to show you the brioche option. And if you haven't done brioche before, you can learn how to do it with me. Do not turn, slide stitches to work the right side again with contrast color 2. So slide the stitches means just slide them on your needle tip so that we're ready to work a right side row again. This is row 1 right side using contrast color 2 under the brioche option instructions. Using contrast color 2, slip 1 purlwise, and then purl 1 with contrast color 2. I'm going to show you first continental knitting, and then I'll show you English style knitting after. Slip 1 yarn over, purl 1 to last stitch. Slip 1 with the yarn over, purl 1. Slip 1, yarn over, purl 1. So in brioche knitting, the slip 1 yarn over represents slipping 1, but the yarn needs to be in front first, like this. So every other stitch gets this little yarn over shawl on top of it's like the stitch is wearing a shawl. Purl 1, slip 1 yarn over, the yarn needs to be in front before you slip, and then purl 1, slip 1 yarn over, purl 1, If you hold the yarn in your right hand, for you English style knitters, slip one yarn over. You need to have the yarn in front and then slip the stitch, and then you make the yarn over if you're throwing the yarn to purl one. Slip one yarn over, slip one, you make a yarn over to purl the next stitch. It's a little bit different feeling for you English style throwers. Slip one yarn over, purl one. Slip one yarn over. The yarn always needs to be in front before you slip. And then bring it on around to purl one. Keep on doing that till the last stitch. Slip one yarn over, purl one. Slip one yarn over, purl one. I'll show you Continental Style knitters again. Slip one, yarn over, purl one. Slip one, yarn over, purl one. Slip one with the yarn over, purl one. Once you reach the last stitch, slip one with the yarn over, purl one. Once you reach the last stitch, you can slip that last stitch with yarn in front. Turn to work row 2, wrong side. Knit the first stitch. It feels a little loose because that was a make one, but that's okay. Just so you can knit that stitch. And then slip one with the yarn over, brioche purl one. So we're going to slip one with the yarn over. Yarn is in front. So we just knitted. You have to bring the yarn forward to slip with the yarn over. Brioche purl means you're purling the stitch together with its yarn over. And then slip one with the yarn over. Brioche purl one, slip one yarn over to last stitch. Brioche purl, slipping with a yarn over. Purl the stitch together with the yarn over, and then the stitch that you slip is that single contrast color stitch. For you English style knitters, brioche purl one, purling the stitch together with its yarn over, slip one with the yarn over. The yarn is in front, so we're ready to slip. Make that yarn over, and brioche purl one, slip with a yarn over, brioche purl, slip that single stitch with give it a yarn over, brioche purl the pair, slip the single, give it a yarn over, purl the pair, slip the single, purl the pair, for you Continental Style knitters, brioche purl, slip with the yarn over. Brioche purl, slip with the yarn over. When you do the final brioche purl, we're on the wrong side. We have the final brioche purl and slip with the yarn over, and then bring the yarn in front to slip that final stitch. Whoop, like that. It feels a little loose because that was the first main color stitch on the right side. I'm just going to pull my yarn a little bit to tighten things up. So there's the end of the wrong side row with the main color, and then don't turn around. We're going to slide the stitches over to work a wrong side row again. Row 2, wrong side, using contrast color. So get your contrast color. Using contrast color 2, slip one with yarn in back. Slip that first stitch. And the yarn is in back. Brioche knit 1. Slip 1 yarn over, brioche knit 1 to last stitch. When you slip one with the yarn over, the yarn always needs to be in front first. So then we slip, and it's making that yarn over so you can brioche knit. So slip one with the yarn over, bring the yarn forward, or you can take your needle behind so that the yarn is in front. Slip one with the yarn over, brioche knit 1. Slip one with the yarn over, brioche knit 1. Slip one with the yarn over. It feels a little different because when you slip one with the yarn over, when you hold the yarn Continental Style, the yarn is already in back to knit. Slip one with the yarn over, brioche knit 1. If you hold the yarn in your right hand, slip one with the yarn over, you need to bring the yarn forward before you slip, and then just knit the next stitch together with its yarn over. Slip one with the yarn over, bring the yarn forward to slip, and then as you do that brioche knit, the yarn is making that yarn over on top of the needle as you travel to knit. Slip one with the yarn over. Always have the yarn in front before you slip. Brioche knit. Do you see how I got that little yarn over shawl on every other stitch? Slip one yarn over. Brioche knit. Keep on going to the last stitch. Slip, knit, slip, knit. Slip one yarn over, brioche knit 1 for the final time, and slip that last stitch with yarn in back. That's the end of row 2. And we're already starting to see some beautiful contrast color 2 stitches here on the wrong side. Turn to work the right side, and now we have a pattern repeat. Rows 3 and 4. We're going to work with the main color on the right side, contrast color on the right side, and then turn. Main color, and then contrast color on the wrong side, and then turn. Row 3, right side, using main color, knit 1, slip 1, yarn over, so bring the yarn forward to slip, and then brioche knit 1, slip 1 yarn over to last stitch. Brioche knit, slip 1 with the yarn over, brioche knit, slip 1 with the yarn over, for you English style knitters, brioche knit, slip 1 with the yarn over. First, you need to bring the yarn forward before you slip. Brioche knit. Slip 1 with the yarn over. The yarn is in front to slip. And then brioche knit. And then you're getting that little yarn over shawl on every other stitch. Slip 1 with the yarn over. Brioche knit, slip 1 with the yarn over, brioche knit, so when you're knitting, the thing you don't want to do is have the yarn in back. You don't want to slip the stitch and then do a yarn over like that for the knit rows, because then do you see how that yarn over is happening after the stitch and it's not giving a little shawl on top of the stitch? So you want it to look like this and not separate like that. So the trick is to always have the yarn in front before you slip. Brioche knit one, slip one yarn over, and when you reach the last stitch, slip one with yarn in front, bring that yarn forward to slip the last stitch with yarn in front. Do not turn, slide stitches to work the same side with contrast color 2. Row 3, right side, using contrast color 2, slip one with yarn in front. Make sure the yarn is in front. The first stitch is just a regular slip. Brioche purl one. Purling the stitch together with its yarn over. Let me do that one more time in the frame. Purling the stitch together with its yarn over. Slip one yarn over, brioche purl one to last stitch. Slip one with a yarn over, brioche purl. Slip with a yarn over, brioche purl. Slip with a yarn over, brioche purl. For you English style knitters, slip with a yarn over. The yarn is always in front before you slip. Slip, yarn over, and then you have to bring it in front to purl. Brioche purl. Slip with a yarn over, brioche purl. Slip with a yarn over, brioche purl. Keep on going to the end of row 3 right side using contrast color 2. Once you have these brioche techniques, you can skip ahead in this video to the next technique sections, so you can always use the timestamps linked down below this video to skip ahead or rewind and watch another technique again in this video. Knit at your own pace as you learn some new techniques. I'm reaching the end of the row. I'm doing my final brioche purl 1 and then slip that last stitch with yarn in front. The last stitch feels a little bit loose, but that's okay. We can always weave in some ends later to tighten it up a little bit. Turn to work wrong side. Row 4, wrong side, using main color. Knit 1. Slip 1 with a yarn over. Brioche purl 1. Slip 1 with a yarn over. Brioche purl 1. I'm going to skip ahead to the end of my heel flap, so follow those brioche knit and brioche purl instructions closely, and you'll be getting these contrast color knit columns on the wrong side and the main color knit columns on the right side. If it's your first time doing brioche, if it doesn't work out the very first time, that's normal, that's okay. You might just need to try again, or you could follow one of my other brioche tutorials on YouTube to practice some brioche before doing it on the heel flap. But if you're really struggling with these brioche techniques, then it's okay. You don't have to do it. You can rip back and pick up again and do the easy garter stitch option. So you can really relax and enjoy something simple, and there'll be some other fun techniques for you to try later on in the knit along. Keep on going with the heel flap instructions. I just completed my brioche heel. I just repeated for size 3 until I had 16 main color rows. And when you're counting the main color rows, start with this first pickup main color row. So don't start with this first big one here, but you see that little pickup? that main color down below. So it's easiest to see right here. This is main color row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 main color rows for size 3. Make sure you have the right number of rows for your size, and then break contrast color 2. Next row, right side, for the brioche heel flap. Using main color, knit 2, brioche knit 1 to last stitch. I'm going to weave in this end as I go. So I'm going to poke this contrast color 2 end to the wrong side. I'm just going to pull it to the wrong side so that as I'm knitting, I can cross that contrast color using the weave in Steven technique. So we need to brioche knit 1 to the end, to the last stitch. And for about 12 stitches or so, I'm going to do the weave in Steven technique. Brioche knit 1, knit 1. Brioche knit 1, knit 1. Weaving in that end as you go. This is going to save you on some finishing work at the end. And this is enough. One more time. That's going to stay in place there, and then I can just cut that end because it's woven in. Brioche knit 1 to last stitch. At the end of this next row, right side, at the end of this right side row, slip the last stitch with yarn in front. Slip 1 with yarn in front, turn to work wrong side. Next row, wrong side, knit 1, purl to the last stitch. At the end of the wrong side row, when you reach the last stitch, slip 1 with yarn in front. That's the end of the brioche heel flap. If you're doing the garter stitch heel flap, then follow the garter stitch rows very closely, resulting in 13, 15, 17, 19, or 21 garter ridges for your garter stitch heel flap, depending on your size. The heel turn instructions begin with row 1, right side. This heel turn instruction is the same no matter if you did the brioche or the garter stitch heel flap. Row 1, right side, using main color, knit 19 for size 3. You might need to knit 15, 17, 19, 21, or 23 stitches depending on your size. Make sure you follow your size closely. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I just knitted 19 stitches for size 3, and then slip, slip, knit. Slip 1 knitwise, slip the next stitch knitwise, knit those 2 stitches together through the back loop, knit 1. Turn to work wrong side, row 2, wrong side, slip 1 purlwise, keeping the yarn in front, purl 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, purl 2 together, purl 1. Turn to work right side. Heel turn pattern repeat. Row 3, right side, slip 1 knitwise with yarn in back, knit to 1 stitch before gap. Do you see this gap that was made when we turned on the last row? So we're going to knit until 1 stitch before that gap, right here. Slip, slip, knit. Knitwise, slip the next stitch knitwise, knit those two together through the back. One more time for you English style knitters. That slip, slip, knit is a slip knitwise, and then you knit those 2 stitches together through the back for the slip, slip, knit. Knit 1, turn to work wrong side, row 4, wrong side, slip 1 purlwise, purl to 1 stitch before the gap. Where is that gap? Oh, it's over there. Do you see that big space? Right there, we need to purl to 1 stitch before that gap. Purl. Here we go. Now there's 1 stitch before that big gap. Purl 2 together. The stitch before the gap and after the gap get purled together. Purl 1. Turn to work right side. Repeat rows 3 and 4 of pattern repeat 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 more times. You should have 19, 21, 23, 25, or 27 stitches. Follow the pattern closely. So row 3 always begins with a slip 1 knitwise with yarn in back, knit to 1 stitch before the gap. Do you see that big gap right there? We want to knit to 1 stitch before the gap so that when you do the slip, slip, knit, you slip knitwise that stitch before the gap, slip 1 knitwise, and then knit those 2 together through the back loop. Knit 1. We're getting more and more stitches here in the middle for this sloped heel turn. Do you see how it's starting to slant this way and slant this way? We're going to get more and more stitches as we eat up the stitches here and here with those decreases. Row 4, wrong side, slip 1 purlwise, purl to 1 stitch before gap, there, you can see it and you can feel it, that big space right here, that's the big gap. Purl to 1 stitch before that gap, purl 2 together, purl 1. Keep on repeating. So follow the number of repeats you need, and then I'll see you for the next row. After you repeat rows 3 and 4 of pattern repeat, you should have either 19, 21, 23, 25, or 27 stitches. I have 23 stitches for size 3, and there's 3 more stitches after the gap here, and I have 2 more stitches here on my right needle. So we need to work next row, right side, slip 1 knitwise with yarn in back, knit to 1 stitch before gap, when you reach 1 stitch before the gap, slip, slip, knit, and then knit 2 together to do a final decrease at the end of this row. Turn to work wrong side. Next row, wrong side. Slip 1 purlwise. Purl to 1 stitch before the gap. When you reach 1 stitch before the gap, purl 2 together, purl 1. Turn to work right side. you should have 16, 18, 20, 22, or 24 stitches. Break the main color. If you're missing a stitch or two, if you don't have that recommended stitch count at the end of this heel turn, then you could tink back some stitches and just sneak in an extra increase or sneak in an extra purl two together somewhere if you need to increase or decrease. Just make sure you have the final recommended stitch count. I have 20 stitches for size 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 for size 3. And that's the end of the heel turn. So place these stitches onto a spare needle, or you could just keep them onto a double pointed needle if you're working with double pointed needles. You could put them onto waste yarn. So if you thread a contrast color onto your tapestry needle, you could put these stitches onto waste yarn, because we're going to set those aside, and the next section we're going to work with some other stitches. Where do you think it's going? This is the end of clue 2 with the cuff and the heel turn of the right sock. Well, that's clue 2. We have a heel and a heel turn and that cuff. So it's starting to look a little bit more like a sock. I'm sure you were doubting in the beginning what we were knitting, but it is becoming a sock. You can try it on as you go. And if you want to make the second sock, then make sure you pay close attention to the left sock instructions. There's a slightly different pickup from that right sock to that left sock. So you could knit both socks simultaneously, or you could just do one and take it easy. It's a nice amount of knitting each week. So next week we have maybe a foot to do. We have a toe still to knit, but what direction is it going to go? So I can't wait to share what the next section is. It gets really, really fun. There's still some fun techniques and some fun shaping methods to try. And if you want to share your progress, you can use hashtag SSAL and post those photos on Instagram. That's one of the most fun parts about these knit-alongs, is seeing everybody's color choices and what the socks look like depending on your neutral color Popportunities or your neon color pops. And you can also post in the Ravelry group. So that's the surprise sock along group on Ravelry. You can post in each week's clue updates, and we're still just getting started. We're only halfway through, and if you're using leftovers or your scrap yarn, don't worry too much about your yardage amounts or running out of yarn. This is a say yes, don't stress knit along. So if you have some extra color pops, you can always add them to the sock. And I had leftovers of my yarns, so don't worry about running out of yarn. You could use your color pops in any way you like in the coming clues, and I'll see you next week for clue 3. We're halfway through, so it's going to be really fun, and I'll see you for the next one.